recently I got a Hornby Thompson L1 off eBay. It only cost £39, but the person selling it obviously either didn't know anything about model railways or did know about model railways and decided not to reveal the faults in it. And it was just pictured in the box with no close-ups or anything like that. And what I didn't notice was it was actually missing a front pony truck completely. And clearly there'd been some damage at the front of the locomotive. And I thought, well, I'll try and repair this and I'll try and make good this locomotive and see how it goes. So first thing I did was just, even without the pony truck, put it on the track, and it didn't run particularly well. And I'll come back to that in a minute. But next thing I noticed, the reason the front pony truck was missing, I think, was because there'd been a collision with the front of the locomotive, and you might be able to see, maybe not from this angle, but there's a bit of a mess on the front buffer beam. The coupling hook, the sort of, hook has been broken off on the actual buffer beam, and one of the buffers is slightly damaged, points inwards slightly. If I look at it from the directly above, you might be able to see that the right hand buffer just points inward slightly. First job then was to buy a replacement front pony truck with wheels. Got that from Peter's Spares off eBay. It didn't have a coupling with it, I just popped in a coupling into the front thing, but the coupling itself is missing its hook, but that doesn't bother me too much. Yeah, the price of the loco was, I think, £39, so by the time I bought the extra pony truck it had gone up to about £45, so it wasn't quite such a bargain after all. £55, beg your pardon. Wasn't quite such a bargain after all, but I thought, yeah, let's see what I can do with this. Then I discovered that I couldn't actually attach the pony truck to the chassis because part black plastic chassis sort of keeper plate, I believe, had broken just by this screw here. Sorry, I've turned up the exposure really high so you can see the black parts of the locomotive chassis a bit more clearly. Yeah, the keeper plate had broken there. It should have gone on as far as those two little metal bits there that the slots in the pony truck fit in, but it didn't. So I had to attach the pony truck in a different way. There's a hole in the middle of the pony truck so that you can access the screw that attaches the base to the body, and I basically then just threaded a metal screw through that hole, and one that then basically self-tapped into the white metal of the chassis block, and so I've managed to attach my pony truck there. The other thing that is very common, a very common problem with all these models, I'm just going to turn the exposure back again a bit, I think. The biggest problem reported with the Hornby L1 is the derailing front pony truck, and I tried various things, but the simplest solution was to put a bit of lead weight on it, and I put a little piece underneath and a little piece on top. The lead weight just came from lead flashing that you put on the roof of a house, and lead's quite a soft metal, although the piece is about 1 millimetre or so thick, perhaps a bit more than that, 2 millimetres thick. You can actually cut it with a very strong pair of scissors. And so super glued those two little bits of lead on the pony truck, and that stopped it from derailing. Very simple solution really, which really makes me wonder why on earth Hornby persist with this method of attaching pony trucks, because the L1 is reported to derail an awful lot, and it's the fault of the pony truck. But it's not the only one of Hornby's locos that has a tendency to do this. In fact, almost all of the pony trucks, the two-wheel pony trucks at the front of locos, have a tendency to do this to a certain extent on uneven track. I've got a Cock of the North, a Thompson L1. They have exactly the same type of arrangement with the two slots that the front pony truck can move in, and they just seem an unnecessarily complicated way of attaching the pony truck to the chassis. Bachmann don't do that, and I have no problem with any of the Bachmann pony trucks derailing. I've got a V1 or V3, whatever it is, a V2, and a Bachmann 04. They've all got a front pony truck, never derail. And some of Hornby's models going back to the 1970s, like the Ivert 260, front pony truck, never derailed. So someone at Hornby sometime had this strange idea that rather than having a screw attaching our front pony truck, we'd have two little metal slots and two little sort of pivots on the chassis, and the pony truck would rotate around those two pivots. Don't know why they've done it like that, just seems to be an overcomplicated way of doing it, and it works less well than a simple one screw method. So Hornby, maybe you ought to go back to the drawing board on that one. I said that my loco didn't run very well. Next thing I did was clean up the driving wheels. And now I do that by basically putting a lead, sort of 12 volts to each of the wheels, and then getting cotton buds soaked in isopropyl alcohol, IPA, and as the driving wheels are going round, I just touch the cotton buds against each driving wheel, and that gets off most of the gunk. The wheels are pretty filthy, and I put it back on the track. It wasn't derailing now, but it was still quite a jerky runner, and I couldn't really understand why, because I'd cleaned up those driving wheels, and I was worried that it was something to do with the valve gear or incorrect quartering, and I thought, oh, that's going to be a tricky job to solve. Then I realised that there were also pickups on the bogie at the back. The bogie wheels all have pickups attached to them. This bit out of the sun, because it was a little bit difficult to see, although we're getting a bit of glare here. You can see there are pickup wires to each of the four wheels of the trailing bogie. And I noticed that if I moved the wheels from side to side slightly, didn't have to move them far, sorry, what happened originally was the pickups were no longer touching the wheels. The pickups were not pressing against the wheels enough. And so I was only typically getting pickup from about one bogie wheel at a time, which is pretty useless, considering the locomotive should have 10 pickups, 5 on each side, and I reckon it was only really picking up from 2 or 3 on each side. All the pickup wires had been slightly misshapen and they weren't touching the wheels properly. I had another Thompson L1 where 2 of the pickups were so badly bent on the bogie that they were causing it to derail. They were actually touching the track a lot of the time, and going over points and things, they would actually catch and cause the whole bogie to derail. So if you have a problem with your Thompson L1, the bogie at the back derailing, have a look at those pickups. So mine was hardly picking up at all. The pickups on the bogie wheels were next to useless. Maybe the previous owner had found that they caused too much drag and the wheels weren't rotating properly, but I've now just sort of bent the pickups outwards slightly, just using a tweezers, and they're rubbing on the 4 wheels correctly, so we're getting 4 wheels pickup from the bogie truck. And suddenly, put my Thompson L1 back on the track, and it's running so much better. Just simple solutions like that, making sure that all the pickups are doing the job they should do. So now let's have a look at the L1 running. I'm just going to back it onto a short train of Hornby Mark 1 coaches. Oh, it's going the wrong way. I'll just switch my switch. I'm using a Gauge Master controller with inertia, so it gives a bit of a delay when you switch the power on and off. Sounds like it's coupled up all right. Gently ease up the power. Oh, it hasn't coupled. Yeah, well, there's one of the problems of tension lock couplings. They don't always lock. They're never at quite the same height. And in fact, I know what the problem is there. Yeah, one criticism of the Hornby Mark 1 railroad coaches is they have a dummy Buckeye coupling right underneath the corridor connection. Looks great, but you only ever see it if it's the final coach in the rake. so it's not really necessary, and it often gets in the way of a tension lock coupling hook, and that stops the locomotive from coupling. And if, as is often the case, the couplings aren't at exactly the right height, then the one tension lock coupling stopping the whole thing from coming together prevents the other tension lock coupling from hooking on as well. Anyway, let's see if this will run a bit more smoothly and actually take the train with it. So there you have it, a Hornby Thompson L1 that is running as well as it looks after a bit of tinkering. If you've had problems like this, have a go. Just see if it's a case of the pickups not being properly in place. That applies to quite a few Hornby locomotives I've found. Or also the front bogie maybe needs a bit of, front pony beg your pardon, needs a bit of extra weight on it. Okay, I hope you found this video useful, and see you again soon. Bye for now.